Dr. Wonkite. I'm already into the 420, damn it.
What are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this lifestyle radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pace Radio Show. We are live, and we are coming to you from lifestyleradio.net and our sister site, 420radio.ca. I'm your host, Al Graham. Today, I'm joined by my joint host, Alicia Yashchechen, and she has a guest that is a writer. She's a negotiator, and I can tell you, she really loves hemp. And we're going to find out more about that as the show goes on. But before we find out that, we're going to have my little chat with Alicia. Hello, Alicia. How are you?
Hey, Al. I'm good. How are you?
I'm not doing too bad. I'm doing much better than I was 2 weeks ago. Let's just say that.
Oh, why? What was going on 2 weeks ago?
Oh, I ate something I wasn't supposed to eat. And, with the Crohn's and digestive issues, all it takes is make a mistake and you can pay for it. And I paid for it.
Oh, well, I'm so sorry to hear that, but I totally sympathize because I am in the same boat.
That's right, exactly. It's just, what can we do? It's just, life goes on and you gotta live by your mistakes and hopefully you don't do it again.
Yep, you just get stronger.
That's right. Just make sure I stay away from that fried food. Ask
so
us.
delicious, though.
Right. It was.
My thing is donuts.
All right. Let's see. There's been a report out saying that here in Ontario, under the Liberal government, they were going to have public stores where it was just government-owned stores. And now that we have a new government here in Ontario with a progressive conservative government, there's a chance that we could be going with a private-public model, as we're seeing in some of the other provinces across the country. And it seems the cannabis community is all for that. I don't know if you've seen that report or not, Alicia.
I am fully just in love with Rob Ford for doing that. And that's the only reason that I love him. But I think that opening the market and creating a free market is just right in a free and democratic society. To have closed that market to the pioneers and the entrepreneurs who have stuck their neck out to provide a service to customers to help heal people, because come on, it's medicine, is just So I think that everyone should be able to take part in the market, and I hope that Saskatchewan, it seems as though our premier, Mr. Moe, is buddies with Mr. Ford, supposing he'll get an idea and do the same here.
Maybe.
Because we're set up for governmental stores, and that's it. And a lot of the key players, the pioneers, were cut out, and so that wasn't fair. I just think that that's unconstitutional, and according to the Competitions Act, we should be allowed to play. So we'll see. In the market, right?
Yes, so. We'll see. That's right. Well, apparently in the Toronto area, more than half would prefer that the models are government-owned, and only 3 out of 10 prefer a mixed model. So it's that might sound bad, but when it comes to the cannabis consumers themselves, it says that 9 in 10 cannabis consumers in the Toronto area like the idea of these privately owned businesses being included.
Yeah, but the 3 in 10 is ignorance. They don't know. People don't know. People think that allowing the government to have their hand in the pocket is what's right and what's just, and we're just a bunch of criminals, but they'll soon see that the government way is not the way. So,
it'd be interesting if they. I'm guessing that they're going to go with the private and public combination, and it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see how the two of them sort of compete against each other.
Yeah, and I think, well, free market, right? And in most circumstances, everything else is a free market. To have tried to create this monopoly is unprecedented. Like, that is some pretty twisted stuff, and that's why I kept saying that the Liberals will be known for their sponsorship scandal, aka marijuana legalization, because it was corrupt. It was, the whole bill, as far as I'm concerned, is corrupt to its core. But cannabis, being the righteous, good plant it will, always seem to find a way to perfect karma. Do you ever notice that?
Well, and
so that'll happen, right?
With October the 17th, it's only basically 2 months away. We're still, with our new government here in Ontario, we're still waiting to find out what it's going to be. And so there are a lot of people who are coming here. They're opening up or renting places, hoping to get these licenses. However, it's rolled out down the road for private retailers.
Well, what do you mean, like in Ontario? Like
yeah. There's all kinds. I've been seeing some reports where businesses are signing lease agreements in the hope that they'll get, if the government hands out contracts to allow private retailers, that they will, like for licensing.
They will.
Yeah. So businesses are lining up, hoping that they're going to get a place to be allowed to sell cannabis. So they're going out and already renting storefronts with the fingers crossed.
Well, and I hope that all works out for them, because I think that that's how it should have been. Like, may the best person, best corporation, best provider win, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that like alcohol, like Jack Daniels and the best of the best brew alcohol? Like, so just to assume that those LPs were the best of the best is pretty naive and silly, don't you think?
Well, yeah, I know here in Ontario, we're still, our main seller of liquor is the LCBO. It's a public retailer, right? So,
but they have no hand in the pocket of like making that alcohol per se, where with cannabis, a lot of the people who sit on the boards of those LPs were previous politicians and police people, and so that's where the inherent corruption comes from, right? Like, not clean hands.
It's not clean hands. It'd be interesting to see if they can get some of those craft people involved.
Exactly, and I hope they do. I really hope that he extends that invitation, and I think that, like, how he's trying to get beer to be cheaper, like, I don't agree with that, but whatever. So it seems as though he has, I guess, some, like, good intentions upon the people of Ontario, and hopefully he'll set the precedent for Canada.
Well, just to slightly touch on that buck of beer, that was a bit of a sham, really, because what it is there's a law in Ontario that says that beer cannot be less than $1.25 for beer. Okay. So he's made the laws now. He's going to make the law now so beer can't be less than $1 a beer, right? But where are you buying beer at $1? You're not. You're not buying beer at $1.25 right now. It's just they just changed the law. That's all they've done. Change the law. Doesn't mean
the red hair.
Buy beer for $1.
Oh.
So let's hopefully he doesn't do something like this on the cannabis issue. That's all.
Well, I think that, like, won't he just allow? Is there still dispensaries that are existing in Toronto currently?
Yeah, there's still dispensaries that exist here in the province.
So hopefully they'll just allow them to exist, and then other, like, key players to enter the market. Like, I mean, that's what a free and democratic society would have done. Like,
well,
this whole
there was
lottery.
one report. Yeah, there was one report that said that there was a group organization put together by the government to go out and shut down the dispensaries after legalization, and apparently that group of people have been shut down. So.
Oh, good.
Who knows? Who knows? We'll find out in time as time goes on. So. Alrighty. Enough with the news. What do you
Pretty
think?
good
Guest
thing.
time?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
We have a very exciting guest.
Yes, we do. And we're going to learn lots tonight. So at this time, I'd like to welcome the person I described as a writer, a negotiator, and someone who just absolutely loves hemp. We would like to welcome Stephanie Grande to the Pace Radio Show. Hello, Stephanie. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, you guys.
Hey, we appreciate you coming on to the program and sharing your experiences and your stories and everything with our listeners.
Absolutely. I was listening in on everything that you guys were talking about just a moment ago, and I'm reporting to you live from Atlanta, Georgia, right now, where I am a refugee hemp farmer.
Oh.
Yeah, you still have you guys have got some funny rules and laws up there, but boy, we've got some funny ones down here. Your neighbors to the south. Some of us are still really struggling. I do think in Arizona, in the last 10 to 15 years, it's legal to be a woman and be the governor. So we do see progress happening down here. Some of us are pushing really hard for it. I'm a gal. I'm a hemp farmer. So thank you guys. So as we were talking before, cannabis is a really dynamic plant. I love canna karma, if you don't mind me coining that one. I agree with you, Alicia. Cannabis has a way of writing the karmatic cycle in its own glorious way. It did so with me. It did so with me, and it did so with the form of cannabis known as industrial hemp. I've just retired from 20 years working in the upstream oil and gas markets. I imagine more than a few of your listeners have heard about oil and gas, and maybe even a really neat device called the electric submersible pump. And so after 20 years of working in that industry, I've officially, I'm pleased to announce that I was just a part-time refugee hemp farmer until recently, when I decided to make the jump and move meaningfully from one oil industry into another oil industry.
Yes, into a healthier oil industry, I must say, too.
Indeed, and it can serve so many of the purposes that our existing oil industry. I'm not a proponent of toppling the oil industry. I know a lot of really great people that work out there, and I know it serves a lot of really great purposes. But I know that even the oil companies are looking at alternatives. I know that it was because of an oil company looking into hemp for biofuel that the crop even came across my desk and across my knowledge. And what happened from there was canna karma, and now I'm a hemp farmer. But you see, I live in Georgia. I'm a single working mom. I'm a farmer, the backbone of what America should be all about. I am not legally permitted to grow in my home state of Georgia. So we're working with some groups here, most notably the Libertarian Party, to try and change that here in Georgia. But so for the meantime, and for the past 3 years, I have traveled across state lines in order to farm an industrial crop. So I'm pretty proud of myself for that. And my farm's in Colorado. Yeah, Colorado.
Crossing a state line, isn't that sometimes dangerous to do?
I'm sure. I mean, I thought about it after the fact, and I was like, I'm a mom, so I cross state lines with breast milk, and that has CBD in it. So every day we're all defying some of these laws that are in place in the United States of America just by walking around with our own endocannabinoid systems. But yeah, it's a journey. Yeah. I'll start a revolution, folks. I really will. This is ridiculous now. It's time for us to grow this crop in earnest. I agree with unleashing all forms of cannabis and letting all who would choose to cultivate this amazing plant to be able to do so. I have a soft spot for those of us that got wrangled into the canna karma of wanting to be industrial hemp farmers. Most of the cannabis cultivators out there are actively striving to get higher and higher and higher THC content. And we have to destroy our crop if it goes above 0.0 or 0.3% THC. And that's something that, of course, we watch very closely because we don't want to have to destroy our crops.
No.
So how do you prevent a crop from getting up there in THC, or is it just genetics or strains? So how do you mitigate?
And industrial hemp down in America, we call them varieties. And I know that some of the stuff that I've read about Canada is approved cultivars. So in the U.S., within the hemp cultivation, it's officially referred to when we're dealing with the Department of Agriculture in our respective states. At least I can speak to Colorado, and it's a variety. So we choose varieties from the beginning that are known to be identified as industrial hemp, and then you don't let it go too long. If you got to harvest a little bit early, you got to harvest a little bit early. And of course, there's a couple tricks and tools along the trade, things that we learn. But generally speaking, we select varieties that are known to produce a crop that has less than 0.3% THC.
Do you have to seed access?
Go ahead.
Yeah, seed access. Do you have to get them from certain places
Yeah.
or?
No.
Do you have to like our hemp farmers last I understood had to get it right from the government.
It's a little bit different down south here. We came across our varieties just the way that we came across our varieties. It was what was available at the time that our registration went through, and who we could network with. But no, there was nothing of an approved cultivar list or anything of that sort. What we do is we disclose to the Colorado Department of Agriculture what varieties we are growing, rather than them necessarily dictating to us which ones we can grow.
Oh, nice.
So do you grow different varieties in the same crop, or do you have different crops of different varieties?
We do a variety of things with our varieties. It depends. I have a year-round indoor cultivation inside my greenhouse, and that's where I do my mothering. That's where we're running most of our seed, and I mix varieties inside the greenhouse. Out in a field, it depends. We typically, in our field crops, will stick with one variety, whether that's from clone or whether that's from seed. But I mix them. I mix them all together inside my greenhouse. I call it the Garden of Eden.
Nice.
Neat. That's really cool. And so, what's the regulation in terms of what you're able to sell the hemp once it's off the crop?
Yeah. So we found out pretty quickly at our farm, as many of the other hemp farmers that I've been able and lucky to network with, we found out pretty quickly that growing for fiber is really neat. Like, it's just great. Oh. Yeah, that fiber is amazing, and there's just really not any money in it right now. This is my opinion. For those of you who might be listening who are out there growing for fiber and you're making a fortune, call me. Because I missed that memo. We really were kind of, from a profitability standpoint in a free market economy, we really were limited to, in order to be profitable, to grow for CBD.
So
we were literally forced right into a role of growing for medicine.
So you can use more than just one part of the plant. Like, from my understanding here, they can only use the seeds.
Yeah, well,
It's
a decision that a hemp farmer needs to make early on when they're selecting their cultivars, when they're selecting their varieties. For our crop, we stick strictly to CBD, which is going to be a single, and it's our end products are a full spectrum, entourage effect cannabinoid, but high in CBD. And we use the flowers, we use the seeds. When you're cultivating industrial hemp for CBD, it is cultivated less like an agricultural crop and more like the horticultural way that typically cannabis is cultivated for things like combustible use. And so our stalks on our industrial hemp plants do not get to be the longest, strongest fibers on the planet. They're typically, triple harvested in very, very much the same ways that, that traditional, like I said, combustible cultivation takes place. Now, if they're out in a field and they're for a fiber crop of some sort, now that you'd want those to get nice and long and long, strong fibers. But really, we're forcing the plant to bud because that's where the stuff that we're looking for is. We need those trichomes.
Yeah, you're looking for the trichome CBD. Yeah.
And so, does that include using the leaves, or not so much? Like, do they just?
It goes through the same. It goes through really the same trimming process, and we have for as many customers that we have on our farm, and our products who are taking a CBD gel cap. We also have those that are enjoying smoking a CBD-rich flower in the same manner as they'll put it in their bong, they'll smoke it, whatever it is, put it in your pipe and smoke it. And I actually have a buddy, one of my favorite hemp farmers in the U.S. I'm going to give him a little shout-out, Josh Helberg. He's in Minnesota with Good Old Hemp. And he started a really cool campaign, and it's a hashtag 419. And he's just running over there making all kinds of noise and selling flower, and people are smoking the 419 and realizing a lot of the same benefits that they get from either vaping or CBD, which is acute relief of post-traumatic stress disorder. You can relieve anxiety, these sorts of things. So it has all of the flavor. You can get a beautiful cherry or cherry number 5, a cherry wine. You can get a variety of flavors in hemp as well. And the only thing, of course, that's lacking is the THC.
Okay, so take us to THC in your state. How is that regulated, or what's going on there?
As far as growing for THC?
Yeah, like and use, like what's the status of cannabis in your state?
Oh my goodness. Well, the status of cannabis I straddle 3 states. I go back and forth between the San Francisco Bay Area, Atlanta, Georgia, and then Durango, Colorado, which is where my farm is. And so I see a lot of diversity amongst the 3 places that I routinely hang my hat. And in Georgia, we literally have zero. It's essentially zero access. There's been a couple of pushes forward. I believe the city of Atlanta went through decriminalization. But there's no one that I'm supposed to know of that's legally growing cannabis in Georgia. Not today. And there's a big push being made right now, again, through the Libertarian Party candidates and things like that, where they're pushing to relieve those restrictions and to push for in-state cultivation. In Colorado, the adult use market is doing very, very, very well. The medicinal market is doing very, very well. The industrial hemp market is doing very, very well. In California, of course, they just opened the largest, what's presumed to be the largest recreational market in the world. And I had the chance to visit one of the new dispensaries that had changed from medicinal to adult use and rec, and everybody's really happy about it.
Huh. So in your state, like in Georgia, you can't possess for medical purposes either. Oh. No,
there are certain ailments for which you can get a prescription, and they are limited to I believe it's intractable seizure disorder. There's maybe 2 or 3. Again, with my focus being on industrial hemp, there's some really great folks that are working on that space in Georgia, and so I'll speak briefly about it and ask for people to double check anything that I say in that area because I'm not as familiar with it. But as it's been explained to me, you can possess, but you can't legally buy it in state. So it's a tap dance of sorts. And it's typically impacting children.
Yeah. And so do you have like illegal dispensaries that pop up there, or not so much?
No, not in Georgia. Not the illegal dispensaries. There's a couple of folks that are selling, CBD only. One of my buddies in Little 5 Points in Atlanta. If you're in Little 5 Points, stop into the pot shop. Paul's great, and Paul has a variety of products. But no, it's still very, very, very black market. And again, Georgia doesn't even have industrial hemp cultivation laws in place yet, not even on a research and development basis, not in earnest. I think that puts us in Georgia at number 43 amongst the 50 states, with 1 being the highest. There is some hope on the horizon. And I do like to tell a positive tale because I believe above all else, whatever hardships we've faced and whatever access hasn't been granted, that maintaining a positive outlook and telling a reasonable story that people can follow, that they can understand, is where we're going to get the most movement here. And I'll take the win for industrial hemp and then put the suit of armor back on to go and fight for the rest of it. But we do have right now, our Senate in the U.S. has passed legislation that would remove industrial hemp from our controlled substances list. That would also classify industrial hemp as a grain crop and thereby affording cultivators of the same crop insurances and, hopefully moving into subsidies so that they can compete in big ag. And then the third was that it would allow possession and distribution of CBD across all state lines. Now, our Senate at the federal level has passed that. We still do need to get that aligned with the House, and so the battle's not over yet. But since there is no moral, legal, or ethical dilemma in the form of cannabis known as industrial hemp, we continue to have a unified voice that makes sense, speaking the same story, and just hoping that we're going to have a lot of hemp growing here in America pretty soon.
And so is it just lack of education? That's why there isn't more growers, or?
I believe so.
Yeah?
I believe so. I believe it's a case of mistaken identity. And I think the further that we travel into, and I'm not here to say anything against or for anyone's religion, that's their business. But in areas where, you know, where the devil's lettuce, it's if you can't tell it to your pastor, then you better not be growing it or smoking it out behind your house. Pardon the accent here, but it is quite. I can do it again too. You guys want the Georgia accent? I'm not from here, so I stand out like a sore thumb anyway. I literally got called into the office. I have a 14-year-old daughter. She's amazing. She's amazing at a variety of different things, but my goodness, the girl can clone industrial hemp. And I watched her one day, and we had a group in, and we were doing a big cloning project, and here comes my baby. She's not so much of a baby anymore, but she's in there, and she's just cloning away, and she's teaching the newbies how to clone and just going through the whole thing. And she followed up with the farmers afterwards to check in on her rooting rate. And, of course, she won everybody. She said it was because she had pure intentions, and so did the crop. So we left the farm, and it's just precious, right? We left the farm to come back to Georgia, you know, documented the whole thing on Snapchat because Snapchat needed a hemp bunny. You know, these kids need to have the truth. And if they're on Snapchat, then that's where I'm going to be, telling them the truth. So we get back to Georgia, and they have the obligatory, what did you do over the summer talk? It was about 30 minutes before they had me called into the office because my daughter proudly proclaimed that she cloned cannabis, and she did a pretty damn fine job of it.
I love that. So what did the teacher say?
Well, we had it was a teachable moment. It was a learning opportunity, and because I went in, I didn't put anybody on the defensive. I just said, "Oh, I'm so excited to be here to explain this. Thank you for this opportunity to clarify." You know, you thank people in advance for their understanding. It's a little bit psychological. I would encourage everyone to incorporate that into just use it in a sentence tomorrow. I thank you in advance for your understanding. You know, we're figuring it out. The next year was even better. She decided to do some summer school so she could free up some electives to take a Spanish class. And I was in San Francisco working on a startup in that area in the cannabis space. And she calls me from Georgia, and she's like, "Mom, you're not going to believe this." She took a screenshot of the curriculum for her health course, and it literally stated, word for word, hemp is a drug that is derived from marijuana.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh.
I was so bummed. But you know what, guys? Then 12 minutes later, she sends me a 5-paragraph essay. She's like, "Mom, I know this is going to upset you. Don't worry about it." She's like, "I took care of it. He didn't know." She writes the teacher a 5-paragraph essay about how hemp is in fact not a drug that's derived from marijuana, but she also thanks him in advance for his understanding. And actually it was a teachable moment for the entire group. And my daughter closed the whole thing out with saying, "You know, guys, you're so afraid of smoking this industrial plant, but really, did you know you can make fireproof building materials out of it? Why would anyone want to smoke that?"
Yeah, or the military. It was a big thing in military years ago because of the ship back. There was so much hemp in ships, from the sails to sealing the sides to the clothing that the men were wearing, the books that they were writing.
Even so, today, the last statistics that I saw is that the United States imports reportedly 60% of all hemp that's produced worldwide.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah.
What in the actual this is talk about other than free market economy. This is a crop that we really need in America. In fact, we used to be able to pay our taxes with it. I mean, not me personally, but a couple hundred years ago, you could pay your taxes with hemp.
And
hemp is paper,
grow,
it's food, fuel, fiber.
Yes, that's right. Food, fuel, fiber.
I think
Alicia?
my favorite part about hemp is the carbon sequestration properties. Between carbon sequestration and phytoremediation, like these are terms that I owe everybody $3 for using these words because that's all they are. It's just $3.
I know. Like, what the hell does that mean?
So carbon sequestration is this fancy term that scientists use to make themselves appear a hell of a lot smarter than they actually are. It just means absorbing. So after 20 years of working on three-phase ungrounded delta-configured power systems, I've seen some power generation stations. And a lot of the power generation stations have these carbon capture and storage facilities located right next to them, where they bore holes into the ground to absorb carbon where it's being released into the atmosphere. I've heard something like this before, the carbon cycle. I don't understand why we aren't just putting plants into that cycle because forever they've been doing a pretty good job of it. So carbon sequestration is just basically means it's a plant's an ability to absorb carbon. And because hemp grows so quickly, and because of its properties, it's a massive carbon sequesterer. The other cool thing about hemp is as it's absorbing that carbon, it also has a phytoremediative function. So phytoremediation is basically a plant that improves the quality of the soil in which it's been planted. Not something that depletes from the soil, but something that actually acts as a filter of sorts. And so there's a couple of plants out there that are just amazing at phytoremediation, and sunflowers are one of them. Sunflowers are also amazing at biofuel production, coal-pressed biodiesel, good stuff. Hemp is also a massive phytoremediator. And hemp can also be used to create biodiesel. In fact, you can make 3 different types of fuel out of hemp.
Yep.
You can ferment the stalks, and you can press the seeds. So there's a variety of different ways that we can power at least point of use loads with hemp. I was at Burning Man last year, and there was a camp that had a generator that was running off of hemp oil, hempoline. How cool is that?
Oh, neat.
Very nice. Very nice.
So when we look at a plant like this, and we see that we can plant this plant, we can clean, especially heavy metals. We can plant it and let it do its thing by not just fixing carbon back in the soil, but by also pulling heavy metals out of it. You know, nobody wants to eat that crop. Or I mean, if somebody wants to eat that crop, go again. It's a free will. Do your thing, right? But a crop that's being used for phytoremediation or to clean up a disaster site or an energy, any type of a contamination that that's within these heavy metals, like radiation, Chernobyl.
Over in Russia, there they covered the grounds.
They did with hemp. We use that crop. They use that crop as a biofuel energy input. So this amazing plant is being planted to remediate a situation that was created as an environmental disaster in the form of pursuit of generating one form of energy. And so it's doing double duty now. It's cleaning up that disaster site and serving as the original energy input, cleaning it up, solving the original problem.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
this is really, and right now I don't know that hemp for biofuel. Hey guys, I'm not growing hemp for biofuel on my farm because it's just not profitable at the scale that I have. But this is the direction that I hope that we head as a collective, as a society, as humans.
That's right. Change over. We need more hemp oil for sure. Well, let's go for a break, ladies. We'll take a few minute break. We're going to hear some music from Collectivo and their song. Just so you know, Stephanie and I usually try to match the songs to our guests. And our song tonight is called Hemp Wanted.
Excellent.
And another thing, I understand you know Spanish, and this song is in Spanish as well.
¡Qué bueno!
Yeah. All right, so hopefully you get to hear it. When we return, we'll continue our talk with our guest, Stephanie Grande, and this is the award-winning Pace Radio Show. We are live on LifestyleRadio.net.
Bajo el cielo sin luna, las olas altas revolcando el mar. Color de
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today, 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
Are you looking for cannabis news, education, and people's opinions? Are you looking to learn what Canadian and international cannabis advocates are doing? Not only now, but what got them to this point in their lives, and what does the future hold for them? Do you want to learn how patients are using cannabis as their daily medication, or learn how their cannabis use helps them with their medical condition? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then I'm going to suggest to you to tune in to Lifestyle Radio. Catch their live weekly shows and have your questions and concerns answered and find the experience you're looking for. Monday, catch your weekly news broadcast with the Reef Reporters. Then on Wednesday, get several hours worth of cannabis public education. We get things started with Cannabis and Coffee with Tamarawana. Then tune in and catch Pottawa with Russell Barth, who calls himself the world's angriest pothead. Finish up your evening with the award-winning Pace Radio Show with Al Graham and joint host Kim Cooper and Alicia Yashchechen. No week would be complete without tuning into Friday night's program, the 420 Radio Show, featuring Al Rapp and the 420 Radio crew, Mary Jane Baker and Marcel Gignac. Cannabis is a lifestyle, and you can catch all your cannabis lifestyle information right here at lifestyleradio.net or at our sister site, 420radio.ca.
Celebrate Indigenous Awakening at Legacy 420's first outdoor music fest, August 11th on the Tyendinaga Mohawk Territory.
This one's about rock and roll and comic books and bubblegum.
Featuring Headstones, DJ Shove, Derek Miller, and more, with host MC Howie Miller. Opening drum ceremony at 12 noon. Medicinal, food, and Indigenous vendors and artists. Free camping. Tickets $75 at legacy420.com. A 19 and over event. Indigenous Awakening, Saturday, August 11th on Tyendinaga Mohawk Territory. Take Highway 401, exit 556.
Sponsored by NIMCA and Legacy 420.
Indigenous Awakening and Legacy 420 have just announced a price reduction. All tickets are now available for $50.
Man, have you been to Canadays yet? Canadays, Campbellford's premier cannabis culture shop at 19 Bridge Street West. They've got bongs, oil rigs, grinders, and papers. Everything you need for consumption. They've got seeds, soil, nutrients, and dome trays too. Everything you need for cultivation. Get top quality seeds from top suppliers like Canuck and wholesaler Nexus. Canadays. They've got all kinds of awesome cannabis novelties, clothing, and apparel. I know, right? It's a lot more than just a bong shop. Interested in gaining legal access? Canadays can help. They're a PACE information center. You know, people advocating cannabis education. Come by the shop and check it out. 19 Bridge Street West, Campbellford. Canadays. Have your say without saying a word. Canadays.ca.
Radio. Hey, hello, and welcome back. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at lifestyleradio.net. We can also be found live at Spreaker, TuneIn Radio, as well as the Pace Radio Show webpage, as well as some other sites. This weekend, tune in to Lifestyle Radio or at our sister station, 420radio.ca, as the 420 Road Show heads to Tyendinaga, Ontario, to cover the Indigenous Awakening Music Fest. Kim Cooper and myself will be interviewing the vendors and event goers, while Mary Jane Baker covers the green room and talks to some of the 15 bands, including the headliners, the Headstones. Al Rapp, he'll be doing his usual thing, connecting everybody together, as well as interviewing people from the 420 radio booth. So make sure you tune in Saturday afternoon for a great time and lots of live conversation right here on lifestyleradio.net. Today on the program, we're joined by our guest, Stephanie Grande actually, she's the founder of Indie Hemp, and joint host, Alicia Yashchechen. Well, Alicia, we got that first segment through. Where are we going with this one?
Well, I would like to know about Stephanie's first experience with cannabis. How did you and cannabis cross paths for the very first time?
Well, I'm from the American Southwest, and that's how most cannabis stories start, I think. I had older cousins. I was 11 years old. I had older cousins, and they were like, "You are really wound up. Here, try this." And I've kind of, I've been a fan. I've been a fan ever since. It's kept me off pharmaceuticals, but I came about it honestly, organically, and I believe that my ancestors had every intention of making sure that cannabis and I would connect from an early age.
And as well, it may have, like, said 11, and we have a bit of chuckle and stuff. I say, well, that's just a minor, that's just an 11-year-old. Who knows? If you hadn't have found cannabis at that age, you might have found Ritalin or something else.
I'm certain of it. They were trying everything they could. They said that my head was going to spin around and I was going to spit out green pea soup like the kid on The Exorcist.
Oh.
So my teens were they weren't gentle. I don't really know any other delicate way to put it, but they weren't. It got better. Yeah. It got better. But you know what? My cousins that were doing it, they were minors too. No, we all were. We were. It was the 80s, and it was the 80s, and we were just kind of we rode our bikes up and down the street, and the older cousins were like, "Hey, look at this! Look what we got." And it's not as if they gave it to us every single day. I went on, I graduated from high school, I graduated from college. I managed, it wasn't exactly a tale that sent me down a terrible path or anything. Yeah. But it was, some light experimentation, and everybody was, we were making bongs out of apples, and I thought it was inventive.
Bongs.
That's interesting. So did you experiment with alcohol? Because I would rather have, if I had children, I would rather have them experiencing with cannabis or experimenting as opposed to alcohol, because I know myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the experimentation, and when I was experimenting with them both together, that was where I really crossed the line. But yeah, I was a curious child. A lot of the kids that I hung out with were curious children. And as I said, I had older cousins, so they were wildly enlightening. We all experimented with it. And I find now, because as I said, I am a parent, and I find now that the kids are just not interested in alcohol. And I don't mean to make generalized statements, but they're not as interested in alcohol as my generation was. And they're just, because it's just it's really it can be a great time until it's not a great time.
Yeah.
And then there's the recovery time.
Yeah,
and there's just never a time in my life. I've had some edibles that were pretty strong. Mile High Mint, by the way, the first ever legal dispensary that I went in Colorado, that Mile High Mint simulated an alien abduction, but it was great. But I never, it wasn't like, it's not like that type of a high. And I have nothing against alcohol. If that's your bag, go do it, have fun. That's you're of legal age, go do your thing. But for me, and as a parent, I feel a lot less threatened by my child one day, choosing, if she would, to develop a relationship with cannabis as opposed to developing one with alcohol. And I think those folks that have a daily relationship with cannabis really kind of, it's not exactly a motivational drug, but, but sometimes they can be, I guess. But those that, the folks that choose to, to drink every day versus, folks that choose to enjoy cannabis every day, there's some distinct personality differences there.
Oh, for sure. And I guess with alcohol too, it's like in most circumstances or platforms, it's kind of like forbidden. Like you shouldn't be having alcohol in the morning. Whereas cannabis, it's, you know, you need to have some hoots or whatever your form of ingestion is to get going because you're in pain.
Yeah,
then that's a different story, right? So with alcohol, like I fail to see any benefit, you know, to it.
Yeah.
So, but
I saw a meme the other day, and it said, alcohol, we had a deal. You were going to make me funnier, you were going to make me a better dancer, and you were going to make me cool. Like, I saw the video. What the hell happened?
Yeah. And just how people are so misled. So I guess in terms of like a legalization standpoint, is your state not even going there? Like is it just
no?
Like
no, they're not.
Oh.
Not outwardly, anyway. You know, I am aware of and involved in some groups that are forming alliances and attempting to explain and show that this is a very, I mean, that no one at this point can deny that cannabis is a compounding, massive growth market.
Mm-hmm.
So now that there are enough states where our educators can investigate what cannabis can do without having to lose their tenure or fail to be able to be peer reviewed, because really the whole educational system, like we got to get peer reviewed. And if you're reviewing something that is completely shut down and not inaccessible and in fact morally reprehensible, or if you've been led to believe that, then naturally you're not going to spend a lot of time researching it. So what we're doing in Georgia right now is bringing in research, bringing in investors, bringing in business plans from other states to make a clear demonstration that this is, in fact, a real business. This is an amazing opportunity for Georgia, as it has been for many other states, and that, rather than beat ourselves up, we can say, okay, we're so far behind all the other states in passing this legislation that hopefully we can cherry pick those bits of legislation that have worked in other places.
Yeah, that'd be smart. So, okay, in terms of Colorado, like the experience there, take us there. Like, so is there, I guess, like legalization all that it's cracked up to be? Like, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's in my personal opinion and my professional opinion. And as a girl who's from Colorado, I can tell you, yes, it has been all of that and then some. Freeing up law enforcement time to actually go and fight crime. Everybody was smoking it anyway.
Oh, and the money that they've raised through the taxes in order to deal with schools and even the homeless. There's really from where I'm standing, a state like Colorado made the right choice for itself and for its residents. And I think California's done the same thing. Although California's restricting the hemp cultivation, so I might have to go have a talk with California, but we'll get there.
And so I guess in Colorado, is there not much regulation when it comes to hemp cultivation then?
There is actually quite a bit of regulation. In fact, whether you want to grow hemp for personal use or not, the only pathway to be a hemp farmer in Colorado is to register as a commercial industrial hemp farmer. Oh. So you do have to maintain an active registration, whether you're selling your products or not. You are registered as a commercial industrial hemp farm. That's the only type of registration that there is. I don't even think they're doing research ones anymore. I think it's just, don't quote me on that. Double check that. But I do know that if we allow for our go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, so how would you go about getting one of those registrations? Like, is that quite the process, or? No,
it can be for those folks that maybe are a little bit, deterred by paperwork. But I spent years working, in petroleum industry. We know how to do some paperwork, and so I submitted an application, and ultimately what it required was GPS coordinates of where the farm's located, your fee to participate, which really was not that bad. It's a $500 fee, and then they charge you per acre or per square foot for your cultivation. And by the time mine was done, it was less than $700 for an annual, to pay the annual fee to be a registered hemp farm. And at that point, you just register as many acres as you want to grow, or as many indoor square foot that you want to grow. And I heard some staggering figure in the last week or so that 17.5 million industrial hemp, like high CBD industrial hemp plants, were grown indoor in Colorado last year.
Oh, wow. So you advocate for both? Like, do you advocate for greenhouse and like crop, or?
Absolutely. I advocate for, you want to do hydroponic, you want to do soil, you want to do outdoor, you want to do indoor, just grow it. Just grow as much of it as you can. That's really there's a variety of reasons why I would grow one plant one way. And the truly the number one reason why I'm a fan of indoor cultivation is because it permits for me to grow year round.
Oh.
And I've had the opportunity to work with some investors here recently who kept talking about, oh, well, it's 3 harvests. Oh, it's 3 harvests. And I'm going, well, yeah, but not in terms of acreage. And the numbers guys like kind of don't get it from like the cultivation side, where we're going, whoa, wait a minute, the acres don't exist in the winter. They're like, well, help me understand that. I'm like, okay, well, sit down. This is going to be mind-boggling to you. The ground freezes in the fall and it thaws in spring. So it took them a minute to some of the most basic things are lost on the folks, because truly all of these numbers that we're talking about are based upon an agricultural input. So without the growers, we don't have a supply chain. Without the growers, this compounding, massive growth marketplace just doesn't exist. So however those growers want to grow it, I commend them, I support them. Please, yes, grow. But to return back to your question about the process to become a hemp farmer in Colorado, I submitted my fee, I filled out an application. The application was approximately 7 pages or so, where I was to disclose 30 days prior to planting what my intended genetics were, like what my intended variety was going to be, where I was going to plant them, what day they were planted, whether they were planted from clone or whether they were a seed, anticipated harvest date, and then you just file regular reports. But it's I had actually anticipated a background check, and they didn't even do a background check, which is fine. I don't have anything in the background. But it was just that. It was a GPS coordinates, your intended planting, and along with your application and your fee.
Do they require test? Do they require that they have the right to come and test your product to make sure you're not over THC levels? Yes,
they do. Yes, they do. As a matter of fact, and so that was part of the application process, was giving authorization for the DEA to come and inspect. For either the DEA or an agent acting on behalf of them to come and inspect the crop. Okay. And we, in my farm, we had a pretty regular history and had come to be able to anticipate when those inspection requests would come through. And they were pretty regular for the first 2 years. And then it appears to be of a lot less interest because as of April, when they first started discussing that there would be an industrial hemp farm bill in the United States at the Senate, on the 2018 legislative session, we have not received any further requests for inspection. So who knows? Maybe they're going to nab me tomorrow, but we're ready. If they want to inspect, they can inspect, and they know that. But we have not had any requests in about 6 months.
So in your mind, is that like productive, those inspections, or is it just a waste of time? Like, is it
total waste of time? Very, very nice man who comes to do the inspections. I don't deny him his opportunity to earn a living for himself and his family to do the job that he's been told to do, but an absolute waste of his time, a waste of my farmer's time, a waste of my time, a waste of my plant's time.
Yeah.
If you think about it, with hemp too, I mean, they're literally testing for 0.3% THC or less. And so what the big, the big bad demon in the room, what if my industrial hemp plant went to 0.6% THC?
Yeah, what's going to happen?
Like, I know. It's like I'm waiting for the, okay, and then what? What happens? It's still not enough to get people high.
No.
So I didn't, and again, we're selecting varieties that are known as industrial hemp, so they're just known to produce very little, if any, THC.
So then do you sell your seed or your stock or the whole plant, or like how does that work? Do you have like processing facilities there, or?
We have. In fact, there's a company that's working out of Durango, Colorado, and I read briefly in the Durango Herald, so I don't know if anybody wants to go and check that out. But there's a guy who's invested considerably in some facilities in Durango where his intent is to make Durango, Colorado for hemp what Detroit was for automobiles. And so we do have quite a few processing facilities that have sprung up. We don't process on our own farm.
Oh, okay.
But we'll either run
you
a crop
sell
for seed, for seed to sell, or we'll run a crop to do to extract and make a crude.
Concentrates for the CBD end of things.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Alicia.
And we have some products that are vape. We have some products that are that are gel caps. The sublingual stuff tastes so bad that I can't even promote it. I know it's amazing and wonderful for everyone, but it just tastes so bad. I can't. I'm gonna be real. It's not my favorite.
Yes.
And so I had someone say that, you shouldn't buy industrial hemp, CBD, because it's like toxic because they're using it to, like you said, pull toxins out of the ground. If someone were growing a crop like that, they couldn't sell that to eat that, right? That's not true.
I don't know that there would be any regulations. Unfortunately, it's a little bit like the Wild West out there, and it's buyer beware. But fortunately, we do have a lot of really conscientious CBD brokers. And the norm is becoming that certificates of analysis are required alongside with any purchases and things. So we are beginning to see a lot more testing for pesticides or for toxins. But there really isn't that governing body that can come back and restrict it. Everybody's so fired up about THC that we might be missing the bigger part of the picture, and that is, I have had some experience working with liquid cannabis extracts that, were not industrial hemp derived. And it became apparent very quickly that even though only trace amounts of pesticides might be sprayed on some of these plants, they show up in concentrated amounts in the liquid cannabis extracts.
Really?
And so there's a lot of research. There's a lot of research coming out of Berkeley that's supporting that. These are not. I am. If anybody wants, we'll give them a place to get in touch and all of that. I can give supporting details for any of these statements that I'm making now from independent entities. And so the fact there that I would say that if you don't know the source of your CBD, probably stay away from it. And the other thing, this is just my personal experience. The other thing that I've seen is the move towards isolates. And I've got nothing against isolates. They see a need, fill a need. However, the isolate does not have the ability to act in concert and provide an entourage effect with so many of the other cannabinoids that are present in industrial hemp. Always have I seen better results, both with myself and with my friends, my family, and within my network, for those folks that are, going for the isolate CBD, great. If you really, really want to feel some amazing health benefits without an intoxicating effect, which is like THC isn't for everybody, right? Maybe not for the young kids or the elderly, who knows? Or maybe just somebody who just doesn't like that feeling. I feel bad for them. I enjoy it tremendously. But I do like the entourage effect CBD, because there's CBGs and CBDVs and CBNs. I mean, there's over 100 of them, more. Yeah. And when we take one and we isolate one cannabinoid, we're missing the interactions that give our endocannabinoid system kind of a full feeding. So I would say if it's for your ingestion, source it as responsibly as you source anything else you put in your body. If organic means something to you, then head that direction. Now, in the States, we don't have an organic program for hemp, not that I'm aware of, or for cannabis. I know the closest that we've come so far is a pesticide-free rating. But of course, I expect for the industry
GMO?
to and non-GMO. I haven't seen any GMO hemp seeds, and I've been at this for 3 years now. We certainly aren't dealing with. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't know, but certainly that's some scientists get their hands on it. I'm sure they'd check it out and see where it would go. It's one of the reasons why I won't cultivate just one variety on my farm. Because if I take the step myself to hold on to my own seeds, then somebody says to me, "Oh, what if Monsanto comes in?" or what? Name the big bad demon, and that's nice. But if I'm over here and I've got my own seeds, then it was worth it. Yeah. I'll Johnny Appleseed. We'll bring ditchweed back in America. Why not?
Yay, this week.
That's right. Don't take my seeds away.
We gotta go for break, ladies. Break time. Top of the hour. Alright. Tonight our bumper music features from Colectivo. And then when we return, we will continue this conversation with our guest, Stephanie Grande. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show, and we are live here at lifestyleradio.net.
Hey, this is Cheech. This is Chong. And you're listening to Lifestyle Radio. What is it? Lifestyle Radio. Say it one more time. 420 Radio? Woo!
Hang up and try again.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Bajo el cielo de Cuicuitlas, la playa desierta, brillante la luna allá. Olor de arena y la música del bar. Y yo aquí.
Man, have you been to Canadays yet? Canadays, Campbellford's premier cannabis culture shop at 19 Bridge Street West. They've got bongs, oil rigs, grinders, and papers. Everything you need for consumption. They've got seeds, soil, nutrients, and dome trays too. Everything you need for cultivation. Get top quality seeds from top suppliers like Canuck and wholesaler Nexus. Canadays. They've got all kinds of awesome cannabis novelties, clothing, and apparel. I know, right? It's a lot more than just a bong shop. Interested in gaining legal access? Canadays can help. They're a PACE information center. You know, people advocating cannabis education. Come by the shop and check it out. 19 Bridge Street West, Campbellford. Canadays. Have your say without saying a word. Canadays.ca.
Hi, this is Al Graham of the Pace Radio Show. Are you keeping pace, as in keeping people advocating cannabis education? If you're not, and you're a cannabis consumer, then why not? Others are working hard every day to help educate people about cannabis so you can enjoy your daily 420. Get involved and speak out. Be loud and proud so that you can keep pace. Tune into the Pace Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear about people advocating cannabis education here on lifestyleradio.ca.
Celebrate Indigenous Awakening at Legacy 420's first outdoor music fest, August 11th on the Tyendinaga Mohawk Territory.
Came down Sunday, offered me
Featuring Headstones, DJ Shub, Murray Porter, and more. With host MC Howie Miller. Opening drum ceremony at 12 noon. Medicinal, food, and Indigenous vendors and artists. Free camping. Tickets $75 at legacy420.com. A 19 and over event. Indigenous Awakening, Saturday, August 11th on Tyendinaga Mohawk Territory. Take Highway 401, exit 556.
Sponsored by NIMCA and Legacy 420.
Indigenous Awakening and Legacy 420 have just announced a price reduction. All tickets are now available for $50.
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today, 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
cielo sin luna, las olas altas revolcando el mar. Olor de sur y la música del mar. Yo aquí, pensando en ti.
welcome back, and thanks for tuning in to tonight's program. We are being broadcasted, as always, live at lifestyleradio.net. But you can also, if you can't catch the live shows, don't forget, you can always catch the podcast after. They're at Mixcloud, YouTube, iTunes, and iHeartRadio, all North America-wide with iHeartRadio now as well. Today, our bumper music features the band Collectivo and their song Hemp Wanted. They're a Quebec-based band, and if you enjoyed the music, please look them up online, and I'm sure you'll find more of their songs there. Today on the program, we are joined by our guest, Stephanie Grande, and she is the founder of Indie Hemp, and my joint host, Alicia Yashchechen. Now, Stephanie, before I hand you back to Alicia, I'm sitting here looking at your bio on our website, and I see you're quite the adventurous person. You've got a black belt. You're a scuba diver. What's an aerial artist?
I do the silks, the circus performing arts.
Wow, and you also do skydiving.
I do.
You're trained. You're a pilot.
I was in private pilot training and discovered that taking off is a lot easier than landing. I essentially took enough classes so that I could commandeer a plane if I needed to. I've never had to do that, but I'm ready in case the zombie apocalypse comes.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good in there.
Yeah,
I don't know how
but
many
that
people
comes
do
in
that.
handy. Being a farmer, being a flyer, you know.
Yeah.
It was so unintentional. It was so unintentional. I was depressed. And so I went skydiving, and I was like, this is kind of amazing. I don't feel depressed anymore. I'm scared shitless, but I don't feel depressed anymore. And so then I was like, hey, wait, I could do my own parachute. And so then I started doing that, and then the pilots were so neat. I was like, I wanted to be a pilot. And then 6 months later, I became a hemp farmer instead. So I had to get my head out of the clouds and into the dirt. And it was absolutely 100% canna karma that made it all come around.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I saw this on here. Like, holy smokes, look what this lady's done.
I did my black belt in Taekwondo with my daughter. It was the coolest experience ever. It was her idea to get scuba certified. So really, I am just a very blessed woman who has the great joy and humble pleasure of being a guide to an amazing young lady who I told her that she could be or do anything she wanted to be or do, and she believed me.
Yeah,
and there was a lot of parent participation that had to take place in that. So I was along for the ride, and it was great.
It's
been great. We continue on that journey, and now actually with my farm. Our owners are my mom, myself, and my daughter. So we are 3 generations of American hemp farming ladies, and it's been just as much of an adventure as any of the others that we've been on.
Yeah, because you mentioned earlier you've got her involved. You've got her involved with cloning, so you've already got her involved in the hemp end of things as well. Okay.
She's great at it.
Good. Okay, Alicia, go ahead.
No, I love that because that's an ability to create wealth at her fingertips, to pass that down that's invaluable. That's awesome. So I guess what does the future look like for your endeavors? What are you planning on doing in terms of collaborating with other farmers? Or hoping
it's
to do
farmers.
that?
Yeah, it's farmers. So my passion is absolutely with the farmers. And when it comes to farmers, I was impacted recently because I called one of my friends in Kentucky because, we're getting ready for planting season. And for a couple of years we'd visit. Are you getting ready? Do you have your clones? Are you coming from seeds? What varieties are you going to plant? And I called this year and they were like, nah, we're not doing it. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're not going to? They're like, we couldn't find anybody to buy our harvest. We sat on a bunch of material at the end of harvest. The supply chain's just not there. And I know personally 3 farmers that just bowed out of the game completely because they didn't have anywhere to sell their crop. And I thought this is not okay. You toil out there in the fields, and a farmer oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes they just want to harvest. and sell their material. They want to know that what they're working for is going to have a path to market.
Yeah.
And of course, the times are rather uncertain. So the best way that I can think of that we can do this is that we can unite as many hemp farmers as possible. I saw some metrics once that showed that if we could, this came from one of my buddies, Tom Chi. Google him; he's amazing. Tom Chi and I sat down and talked one day about how if we planted a field of hemp the size of the Sahara at that latitude, that we could not only absorb the excess carbon, the free carbon that's out there in the atmosphere right now, but that we could actually turn the time back into a corrective scenario. And so we looked at each other, we were like, well, they're probably not going to give us the Sahara. We made a couple of calls, we tried as best as we could. It didn't happen. We can't have the Sahara. So we decided the next best thing is to get as many farms going as possible, all over the place. All over the place. This plant has the ability to act like a liver on our planet. And our farmers who would choose to cultivate it deserve to have a place to sell that. They deserve to know that, that the products that are being made are actually reasonable, respectable products, that they can get a fair price, that their crop can be traded like a commodity as well. And so what I really want to do right now, I'm working with some really amazing people to help unify the farmers' voices. So if anyone's out there, we're focusing first in BC. And then, of course, in addition to the stuff that we're doing down south of the border. But our first efforts will be in D.C. And if anyone who's listening is a farmer or wants to be a farmer in BC, please send me an email, and we will be in touch to see how we can be prepared for regulations and changes moving forward to ensure that we can not only have this crop growing, but that farmers can build actual business models on it year after year after year.
Oh, for sure. And so I guess, is it that more people or more industries should be seeking that crop? I guess is, like that DuPont, that reefer
It certainly will.
Documentary or whatever. I guess it is kind of true in terms of like paper and fiber and stuff. Hey, like but I mean, it's not impossible, but that's why it kind of doesn't exist right now. Hey.
Well, what doesn't exist also for a Canadian hemp farmer until October 17th is the ability to process the flower.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we anticipate what that market's going to look like the second that opens up, for me, I think it'd be a real shame to have farmers sitting on something and not know what the value of it is and to not know how to get it into the marketplace. And whether that's through their own, like our farm, for instance, we're just one way of doing it. We do our harvest, we do our drying, we take our material somewhere, we have it processed by an extractor, an extraction artist. That's if you've ever met one, you know why I call them that. They're amazing. And the extraction artist then will return our stuff to us. But of course, there's other farms that have their own extraction facilities. There's other farms that are creating their own end-use products. There's so many different ways to get involved. And then more importantly, also, there's so many other small businesses that can get started in and around providing ancillary type services. But not if those farmers don't want to plant this crop. And so that's what I want to make sure, that we don't lose them before we have a chance to get them, and that they get the full benefit of this new way to use a crop that, frankly, Canadians have been planting for a long time.
Yeah. But see here, I guess we only use just the seed, but we should be using like the leaves for different stuff. But you don't need to use like pesticides and stuff or herbicides and fertilizers and stuff with hemp. Naturally, do you? Isn't it kind of organic growing?
Typically, no. The biggest, I'll tell you, there's three threats that face our crop on a pretty routine basis, and two of them are really prevalent in our indoor, and I think they're pretty common across all greenhouse operations, and that's powdery mildew and spider mites. So you get those guys taken care of, and you do fairly well. Indoors, there's of course other things to consider, but those are my top two picks on biggest pain points. And then outside in the field, it's grasshoppers, man. So
really?
I'm just not a fan of pesticides in general. So we don't use them at our farm, but we do get attacked by the grasshoppers. And at that point you just hope to try and bring in lots of birds.
Grasshoppers, they eat the plants, the leaves?
Yeah, they do. Mm-hmm. Grasshoppers love my hemp. Funny enough though, we have a yak ranch that's co-located with the hemp farm, and the hemp plant is native to the Indian subcontinent, and so are yaks. And I can't for the life of me get the yaks off of the alfalfa and the Timothy grass. They want no part of the hemp leaves. So I haven't closed in that loop just yet, but we're still doing some research.
That's very interesting. So I guess what's the end goal? To get as many farmers farming hemp so that you can create an economy, so that you can have it be like a valuable crop.
It's really, yeah, and for me, there's lots of other people that are working on this. You know, I'm just one of many. My area of focus is to make sure that those farmers get paid. I tried once to do I tried to grow basil, and because I was obsessed with growing my own food for a hot minute, and I tried to grow basil, and I poured blood, sweat, tears, fertilizer, water, everything into it, and at the end of the day, I had a giant wasp sting on my hip. And all I could get was for an entire gallon-sized bag of frozen basil was $5 in the alley behind the local Italian restaurant. And I was like, there's no way. Farming has got to be, it's literally where we come from. It's the agricultural revolution in Neolithic times. It's to me a shame that a farmer should cultivate something and not have a way to get paid for that. And if somebody else wants to make a product out of it at the end, great. Free market economy. Have fun. Do it. Please don't do it at the expense of anybody else. Leave children and animals out of it, and I'm going to stay out of your business. But what I want to do is advocate for the farmers, because I know that they've got it rough. I know we've had it rough. And not all the farmers want to stand up and use their voice. They're kind of, it's like, why do I have to mess around with this? I'm watching for rain. I'm doing this. farmers have got a difficult enough job as it is. And what I like to continue to do is to help to unify the voice of the farmers and make sure that that their crops get sold.
Well,
and so now I guess it's about just finding getting that industry so that they can sell their crops, or is it just what's, I don't know, what is it going to take? Even in Canada, there's
it's going to take education too, because we want to leave space for those farmers that would want to, maybe they've got a cousin who worked in the oil fields and did some refinery, and they want to build the next big extraction machine. The whole supply chain is going to have to be built up around it. I know in Canada it's been, just an influx of isolates from the States. So I'm sure there's going to be lots of folks in the States that are quite upset that their supply chain got cut off once Canada starts producing, starts doing their own CBDs. But I think that, I think it's just making sure that, that there's communication along the way, and making sure that those who want to cultivate and how far they want to take their end product is really, a thing that I'd like to be able to help educate them on, so that they can discover, do you want to make pants? Do you want to make a flag? Do you want, what do you want to make out of this? I was speaking as a featured speaker at Hemp History Week event in Monterey, California back in June of this year. And I was interviewed by a 7-year-old, and he wanted to be a hemp milk farmer. Because that was his favorite use for hemp. And he wasn't sure how he was going to milk the plants, but we had a brief discussion about biology, things like that, and it was great. And he understood, but it's that passion that if somebody, because this plant has 25,000 different uses or more once it's been harvested, I think that every single person who wants to get involved in this should be armed with knowledge that would give them the ability to not just grow it, profit from the crop, but then also create their own end products if that's what they want, or distribute their end products. But what we really want to do is start getting the right hand talking to the left hand, so that there aren't misconceptions, or so that we're not using a crop that's being used to remediate toxic soil as the same crop that we're making hemp milk out of. So that's just creating that open dialogue and that space where people can either have their voices represented through a common conduit, or whether they can stand up and have that voice for themselves. Together we're stronger, and as long as we hide in the shadows, then I think that the industry is ripe to being, taken over in ways that maybe won't benefit everyone. And I think I'm trying to get a head start on some of that canna karma.
You mentioned, I believe it was during the break, you mentioned something about the U.S. Imports 80% of the hemp that's out there. You would think that you would have a market there, available to these farmers, being that there's so much imported. Why not, your president's going on all the time, about America first and everything, and there's a perfect example. Why don't doesn't the government help the hemp farmers?
Exactly what we're trying to do. That's exactly what we're trying to do. And that president, isn't he precious? Oh, I'm so excited about term limits in the United States of America. That's really what we have to look forward to right now.
Right?
It's moving. I mean, it's moving. And I don't know that really anyone saw what CBD was going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so even though what it's capable of doing and how much support would come out at so many different levels, that I think that we're kind of in territory right now where anything is possible, and the more unified that we are, the less able. People ask me all the time, they could just take it away.
Yeah.
They could just take it away. You know what? I'm going to plant as much as I can in the meantime. And then any farmer out there, can I get a hallelujah for volunteer material? It is actually quite difficult to eradicate this crop. Volunteer material. It's the stuff that's left over after harvest. Once we get these seeds out there, the plant has its own intentions as well.
Yeah.
So I say let's set it free. Let's find another 25,000 uses for it, and we can all be having our CBD full spectrum gel caps and whistling Dixie and having a wonderful time, and then the world got saved. Yay! That might be a little simplified. It might be a little simplified, but I'm an eternal optimist.
Yep. No, I agree. I totally agree. And the thing is I guess there's so many different applications that we haven't even dreamt up yet. It's just.
You guys have a Kestrel. Up in Canada, you have a full cannabis car. The body of it's made out of hemp. I think it even runs on hemp. The Kestrel. It's named after that small falcon.
I've heard of Jack Hare. He traveled across the U.S. in some hemp fueled car.
Yeah.
But I think him and Jack.
That's what we need. One of my buddies, one of my great buddies, I'll give him a shout out, Coach Freddie on the Hemp Revolution Roadshow. He's amazing, and he's taken his 1966 Jensen or Austin Healey all over the country, pulling a hemp trailer behind it.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so there's a lot of characters out there, really, really, really great people that are continuing to spread the good word. And I think we've got so many people that have just jumped ahead into the investment side of the house, and they're eyeing this $1 billion market. And I just want to bring that dialogue back and let people know, hey, not if we're not cultivating. And so that's why for me, it's about the farmers.
Yeah. No, there was the start of it all.
Well, creating that unification, so it's like an industry, like the cannabis, it's a market, it's an industry, right? Because people have somehow band together to create this underground, magnificent industry. Where with hemp, it seems like it's a lonely farmer scenario. Right?
It is. It is, but much of the same as we've discussed with cannabis, and it isn't. It's a natural networker. What I'm seeing happen is that these alliances in geographic areas are forming rather organically. I know at my farm, we partner with 4 other farms that are nearby. We share genetic, we share varieties, we share clones, we share seeds. We might even stop in and water your crop for you if you need to go out of town.
Nice.
And so, so what we're seeing, and I'm seeing such a huge benefit. There are a couple of our farms wouldn't have made it if we hadn't had the support of our neighboring farms.
Farmers helping.
And so we're naturally banding together. So, my thought is, why not do so in a more meaningful way? And rather than wait for legislation to be handed to us, hey, let's get on these committees. Let's go and stand there and help and drive the legislation. I'm not entirely familiar with how things work in Canada. My grandfather was born in Cardston, Alberta. And he came down south, but that I'm not exactly sure the way that those laws get passed in Canada, but I do know that wherever we have a unified voice that's representing a common goal, we can gain an international stage, And when we have a very reasonable discussion on an international stage, that gets picked up. That gets picked up, and that goes viral. And that's the stuff that drives change. And so what I want people to see is the farmers. Yeah. The actual farmers, not, whatever stereotype somebody might have had about cannabis users or cannabis cultivators. You know what? Half of what they heard is right, and the other half we try not to talk about too much. But I want them to be able to see, we wear overalls. Like, we show up, we till the soil. What we're growing is actually, I'm not going to say no different than corn, but it's far more beneficial to the environment, that's for sure. And it produces far more beneficial products at the end.
It doesn't suck all the nutrients out of the soil like corn.
And I want to give a voice. I want to give a voice to hemp farmers. I want to give them a voice. I want to give them their time on the podium to say, hey, I grew some last year, and here's what I learned. Because it's not just about securing the supply chain. It's about getting that knowledge base, especially here in the States. We've only been able to legally cultivate this for 4 years. This is our 5th season. How much of experts can we really be?
Yeah, only 5 years.
If we don't pull from combined experience, then we're not doing ourselves any favors.
Kentucky has a big history of hemp farming.
Yes. Mike Lewis was the first one to legally grow a hemp crop after the Farm Bill 2014, and he's a friend of mine, a great guy, and a huge inspiration to me in my journey in becoming a hemp farmer.
All right, good. Alicia, have you got any final questions for Stephanie? We're down to the final minutes here.
I guess you kind of touched on it, but in terms of your own farm, what does the future look like? Will you continue to grow the way you do, or do you foresee expansion? What does that look like?
I think at our farm, it's a great question, thank you. At our farm, we continue to pray for rain. So Durango had a really bad. My farm's in the extreme southwest corner of Colorado, near to the Four Corners, and we didn't really have a winter. Our winter was very dry, and so our wells were going dry right from the beginning. My farm's at 7,200 feet elevation, so it's definitely high altitude. And we were not able to we elected to not do an outdoor crop this year because of water restrictions, and shortly thereafter there was a big fire. Our farm made it unscathed. I want to give a shout out to all of my friends who made it and who didn't, and who are choosing to rebuild. The 416 fire was pretty intense. We will come back stronger next year, and we will continue to grow in our greenhouse, and we will continue to do so on a boutique basis. I have no desire to be the biggest hemp farmer in the world. I just want to be one of many. Yeah. So we'll continue to do our boutique farm and our boutique line of products, and I'll continue to speak about what it is to be a refugee hemp farmer. They're not making it easy on me out there trying to earn a living. Single mom crossing state lines to farm. It presents well on the stage. Hopefully brings to their attention the lunacy behind some of their decisions.
Yeah, that's so.
So how far of a drive or a commute is that for you to have to go between states?
It's 2 flights. I can't even get on a direct flight. It's 2 flights. If I was to drive, it's 2.5 days. When I fly, it's a good 7-hour travel.
Oh.
Yeah, I Snapchat the whole thing too, and then I send it to the governor. I don't think he likes me. I don't think he likes me. I don't know.
No, I'm sure he likes you plenty. He's probably
He's like, get her out of my office.
Yeah, but
and I just don't. Yeah, I think so. You know what? He's helping me a lot by not seeking re-election. And my buddy Ted Mess is running. He is our candidate down here in Georgia, and he is running for governor of Georgia, and he has a wonderful campaign agenda to end this prohibition.
Good. That's good to hear. Let's hope hope he gets elected.
Yeah, so we'll continue to use our voice. We'll continue to grow whatever crops we can, and just like any farmer, we'll be praying for rain.
So, Stephanie, this is shout-out time. This is an opportunity for you to let people know where you are, maybe promote somebody's website, your site, anybody's site, whatever.
I'd love it. I thank you so much for this opportunity. I have a Facebook group, and it's called Indie Hemp. INDIE Hemp, H-E-M-P. We don't sell anything on Indie Hemp. Indie Hemp is a guided tour of 25,000 different uses for hemp. It's me running all over the country, often up into Canada, and taking my picture with hemp beer or in a hemp bra, or talking about hemp biofuel, or talking about hemp for phytoremediation. Or anytime I run across a hemp-related product, I show it to people. And it's really just designed to increase awareness, and we ask all kinds of participation. I've got an amazing following in Canada, so I'd love to have more followers there, and especially those growers that are in the BC area. We really want to try out this coalition to get the Hemp Farmers United, and I would love to have that discussion and come up and meet with some folks. So Indie Hemp, again, it's just for information. If somebody wants to learn more about products or anything like that, we've got links in there, but we're a source of information, and we would love to have everyone who's interested in hemp come and participate.
Super. Great.
Awesome. That's
yes. Alicia.
Thank you.
Yep. Have you got, you mentioned the Facebook page. Have you got a website or anything?
I don't. It's Facebook and Instagram.
Okay. Yeah, Instagram.
Although, and then, okay, Snapchat. If you guys are on Snapchat and you want to see some really funny hemp bunny stuff, I'm Star-Capped Steph. That's StarCaptSteph. I do a lot of hemp updates, but I really, really prefer to do them in a bunny filter.
Bunny filter.
Cool.
Okay, I don't know what a bunny filter is.
So I don't have a website. Like I said, we don't have e-commerce. We don't have any of that. We're just information.
Yeah.
Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat.
And
Love
information is important. Information is very important because an educated public is an informed public.
It was hoping. It was my desire to try and educate myself that made me realize that there was a big opportunity here for a lot of information to be released. And I love hemp. I just can't stop talking about it. So my friends actually got tired. They were like, okay, you really need to start a group because we don't really want to hear it anymore. Like, we're believers, so take that message out on the road. And so that's what we've done. And so we want to hear from everybody who's doing anything with hemp and just celebrate this plant and see it moved forward and planted everywhere.
Well, I know for me, a big spot for information, that was Jack's book, Emperor Wears No Clothes. Yeah. All right, Alicia.
Well, I would like to thank Stephanie for coming on and sharing her story. You're a wonderful speaker, and I really enjoyed listening to all about your hemp farming. So kudos to you and all the people like you who farm, but you are so special. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And, of course, a special shout-out to Al and Al, of course. You guys are awesome.
Double shout-outs and thumbs up. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I'm just going to remind everybody that catch us live this Saturday afternoon. There's myself, Kim Cooper, Mary Jane Baker, Al Rapp, and who knows who else. We're going to be live from Tynega Reserve near Belleville during the Indigenous Awareness. We'll be talking to the vendors and who knows what else going on there. And I'll be back next week with Kim Cooper and a special guest. In the meantime, you can find the Pace Radio Show on Facebook. We're also on Twitter, at Pace Radio. Instagram is Pace Radio Show, and we can be found on the web as pace-online.ca. Thank you to our sponsors, always our friendly and helpful folks at CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. They can be found at ccnexus.global. Also to Canada's in Camelford for providing us with a location to broadcast our show and educate the public. Also to the man behind the baggie in one hand and shadow rice in the other. It's our producer, El Rapp. And thank you to you, Stephanie, for coming on and talking, sharing your story and telling us about Indie Hemp.
Thank you.
And Alicia, as always, thank you for everything you do.
No worries. Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you to our listeners. Thank you. And good night.
Good night.
Good night.
What are you doing? Nothing. Why not?
trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.